Welcome to the Unit 2 of Section 3, the unit dedicated to eco-museums and local development. The driving question for this unit is this one. Can the eco-museum be a valid partner in the destination's enhancement? To answer to this question, we are going to explore the following 4 topics. First of all, we need to understand what an eco-museum is and its difference from a traditional museum. Second, we will have a look to its origins. As a third topic, we will get into detail with an Italian ecomuseum and a practical example on how the ecomuseum can enhance the destination by involving the local community. Finally, we will widen our horizon looking at the recent and international experience which promotes a collaborative approach within ecomuseums to local heritage. We start with defining what an ecomuseum is. Here we have 3 very important definitions of ecomuseums. As a matter of fact, it was not easy to reach a shared view and definition of this cultural subject due to the different sensitivities and applications of such a reality in the diverse continents of the world. In any case, in all 3 definitions, we find that the ecomuseum is dynamic, that it works in a participative way with the local community, and that its core is the local heritage. In the first definition we read, an ecomuseum is a dynamic way in which communities preserve, interpret, and manage their heritage for a sustainable development. In the second definition we read, ecomuseums are configured as participatory processes of recognition, care, and management of local cultural heritage in order to promote sustainable social, environmental, and economic development. And the third definition is this one. Ecomuseums are a way of managing the living heritage according to a participatory process in the cultural, social, and economic interest of the territories and communities, like the populations living in these territories. Hence, involvement of locals is key. The video helps us to better understand what we are talking about. Let's watch it. Now that we have a clearer idea on what an ecomuseum is, it's the case to go a step further and see the main differences between it and a traditional museum. This slide shows us that for a museum, usually the core activity is about heritage and a selected collection, for instance, of pieces of art or finds. On them, the museum runs activities dedicated to collection, conservation, exhibition, but also research, education and enhancement. For an ecomuseum, all these functions are active, but in addition, it has the enhancement of local identity, the recognition of local heritage, and the promotion of local development. This is due to the fact that its core is about heritage, territory, and community. In addition, and very often, it is not confined within four walls. That's why it is also called the museum within and for the territory, being diffused and open-sighted. We already saw in this course how the cultural heritage and local identity can characterize a tourism destination and make it attractive. With this regard, the role of the ecomuseum becomes even more relevant due to its mission and core activity. In fact, in the short time, the ecomuseum can increase the opportunities of the destination for a non-invasive tourist offer, for example in terms of diversification, extension of the stay, but also discovery tourism, sustainable tourism, and providing authentic experiences for niche targets. While in the medium to long time, the ecomuseum can augment the opportunities for the local economy, for example, supporting the development of typical activities and productions, or professionalizing artisans and local producers, and boosting the development of crafts, as well as reinforcing partnerships between local stakeholders for local projects. By the way, on all these aspects, we have a focus in section 3 titled The Case of an Italian Ecomuseum, where a director tells us how it works. Have a look to that. As for the origins of the Ecomuseum, the Skansen Museum is considered its forerunner, being the world's oldest open-air museum. It showcases the whole of Sweden with houses and farmsteads from every part of the country. The next two slides give us a flavor of this particular museum and provides some info on its origins and some infos on its absorptive visit experience, where visitors can jump into the 19th century world as protagonists. Going instead to the present day, we find an example of an ecomuseum that has always made collaboration with the local community its distinctive feature. This is the Ecomuseum Cusius, or otherwise called Ecomuseum of Lake Orta and Mottarone Mountain. It is located in Italy, in Piedmont region, on the river of a small and romantic lake, which is an international destination for business tourism, leisure tourism, and wedding sector. Have a look to the wonderful view over the lake and its small island called St. Julius Island. Established 26 years ago, it consists of a dense network of itineraries and places to visit that are organized around three themes: material culture, art, and nature. The Ecomuseum Cusius represents, with its multiple cultural proposals, an effective model of cultural offer linked to the enhancement and protection of local environmental, cultural, and historical ethnographic resources. Part of its success surely depends on the involvement of local subjects. In all the phases of the project, this ecomuseum realizes. These subjects are municipalities, tourism and cultural associations, but also enterprises, artisans, private individuals, and volunteers. To demonstrate how the Ecomuseum Cusius interacts and collaborates with all these subjects, I want to describe you a brilliant initiative that started almost 20 years ago, and that is still highly attractive for both residents and visitors. It's the Giro Lago project, a slow walk to boost locals' involvement and place discovering. Since the reality beginning of this initiative, since the really beginning of this initiative, the goal has been that of working for the local community, raising their awareness on the places they live in. The formula entails 2 different walk rings, short and longer, with rays that connect the lake to the mountain. Animation, activities and guided tour on the routes, slow walk aimed at the rediscovery of places and landscapes, together with visits to cultural attractors, unexpected view over a breathtaking landscape, and the possibility for participants to socialize. These are the ingredients of Girolago. The next slides give us some self-explanatory images about the formula. Here we have, for example, the map of the lake and the 2 ring walks, represented in red and blue on the map. The pictures show us the departure moment and a glimpse over St. Julius Island. Here we have an example of what cultural attractors can participants come across. A villa with a permanent art exhibition on national and international artists of the beginning of the last century, and an archaeological find. Here we have a musical moment that is quite special. It's folk music concerts with ancient instruments and contemporary sound contaminations provided by young musicians. Here we have a very participatory moment thanks to the ancient dances that are taught to participants and which encourage fun and socialization. And here we see an unexpected theatricalized, this is a really difficult word, theatricalized storytelling of the roots and history of the Lake Orta, performed by a professional local theatre company. Another way with which ecomuseums involve local community and foster local development is that of capacity building. Thanks to its territorial diffusion and its participatory approach, the Ecomuseum is a relevant subject on the territory to promote capacity building and professionalism with decision makers and local operators. Of course, the field in which the Ecomuseum is mostly active is local heritage. Capacity building is an area of collaboration not only between the individual ecomuseum and the local community, but also between the ecomuseums themselves, who can learn from each other techniques and good practices for territorial development. That's the case, for example, of EcoHeritage, a EU platform with the aim of fostering the cooperation between ecomuseums, communities and the project's partners for the innovation and the exchange of good practices on heritage management. The project is funded by Erasmus Plus program and includes partners coming from Italy, Poland, Portugal and Spain. With EcoHeritage, there is the Learning Hub, a training platform to provide knowledge and skills on participatory heritage management. On this platform, you can find a set of training materials at theoretical and practical level, and a participatory heritage management toolkit with 12 tools aiming to foster the creation of ecomuseums and other initiatives, thus promoting economic growth and social cohesion in rural communities. On the right side of the slide, you can see a screenshot of the section of the platform dedicated to the Learning Hub. By clicking on the section of the Learning Hub, you can find plenty of tools, documents, and tips. All these materials are organized into 12 thematical areas represented in this image. You can see the URL as footnote on each of the slides treating the project EcoHeritage. In any case, I remind you that also by voice, ecoheritage.eu. Fine, we are at the end of Unit 2 of Section 3, the unit on ecomuseums and local development. This slide wraps up the 4 points we have seen. We talked about definition and role of the ecomuseum, its origin. We saw an example in Italy, and we saw also the EcoHeritage platform to promote a collaborative approach to local heritage. I hope you found interesting and useful the contents of this unit. Remember that in case you would like to get into more detail with the topics of ecomuseums, you have two possibilities. Watch the focus in section 3 titled The Case of an Italian Ecomuseum, and accessing the further information materials always in section 3 on our INCULTUM platform. Thank you and see you on the next unit.